invocation by Pastor Brian Worth from Chapel of Change. Please stand.
Would everybody please rise and face our flag and repeat after me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Lord God, we thank you for this gathering tonight, and we pray for the council that you give them wisdom to make the right decisions, and we pray for everybody here that you bless them and that your hand be upon this gathering this evening. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Roll call of council members, please.
Councilmember Guillen. Here. Councilmember Hoffmeyer.
Here.
Councilmember Lemons.
Here.
Vice Mayor Hanson.
Here.
Mayor Martinez.
Here. At this time, I'd like my colleagues to join me at the podium, please. Tonight, we have two special community presentations, one farewell and one introduction. Latinas Art Foundation. Would Lourdes, Dinah and Daleen Perez please join us? Oh, they're not here yet. Oh, yeah, yay, there you are. Come up. The Perez family and their Paramount Dance Company have been a dependable presence in town for many years. The company performs at city events and offers classes through our recreation department. Lourdes, Dinah and Daleen have also branched out and created the Latinas Art Foundation. The foundation supports art education, encourages the study, appreciation, and recognition of excellence in Latino arts, and empowers women and young girls. It has become a very inspiring and successful creative enterprise. So successful, in fact, that in June, during a ceremony at the state capitol, the Latinas Art Foundation was recognized by Assemblymember Anthony Rendon and the Nonprofit Organization of the Year for the 63rd Assembly District. This is quite an accomplishment when you consider that the 63rd District includes the cities of Paramount, Bell, Cudahy, Hawaiian Gardens, Linwood, Southgate, Lakewood, and parts of Long Beach for a total population of 461,000 people. Tonight, we want to recognize and honor and congratulate them for representing Paramount so well. Would any of you like to say a few words?
I'd like to thank the community for all the support and their love in the arts and the Latino culture. And together we can create and bring forward our love and culture for the arts.
Very nice. Thank you, Dinah. Okay, let's take a quick photo. She's cute. And she's one of the dancers as well. I've seen her dance. Would Lieutenant Oscar Berrigan please come up? Lieutenant. Tonight is the 35th anniversary of National Night Out and an anti-crime event that supports law enforcement efforts across the country. In Paramount, we take part by hosting a dinner to recognize our Neighborhood Watch members and volunteers on patrol that was held last night. Now we want to thank the Sheriff's Department for being our longtime partner in public safety. Through proactive strategies, paying attention to trends and statistics, and working with the community, the city and the Sheriff's Department have made Paramount a safer place. A case point, major crime is down 16% so far this year compared to last year. I'm pleased to give this certificate to National Night Out to Lieutenant Berrigan to celebrate our great teamwork.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank everyone, first of all, for being here, and I really, really appreciate the certificate. The thing is, I want to say the most is, and I sincerely mean this, when I first got here last year, I had no idea what to expect. I knew that our past captain, who is now a commander for our division, Jim Wallach, he worked here as a lieutenant. And I remember him telling me things about the great things about Paramount, but like I said, I've never worked in Lakewood, so I didn't know what to expect. But like I said, again, he told me a lot of great things about the city, a lot of great things of how well they supported him. So in the past year, like I said, I've been here a year, I can sincerely tell you, and not because they're here, and not because the city manager's here, or not because I'm just saying this, but I've gotten more than the support I anticipated. And this is coming from someone who worked here. I've been able to do things the way I want to do things. For example, when I first got here, my big priority was these high school football games. You know, I think there's a big danger in those with, you know, rival schools coming, you know, people coming here, the traffic, all those issues. So when I came to Adriana, who's our public safety director, and I spoke to her about it, and I told her, you know, we can't put a price tag on this. We need to hire more people. We need to hire some more deputies. We this, that, and no problem. That's what I got, whatever you need. So we did that. We were able to partner up with the school district, and we're able to establish a much better communication. I mean, I call the superintendent directly. Anything she needs, I go to the city, I tell Adriana, I need this, done. And vice versa. You know, we go to the school and, hey, we need your auditorium for this. We need your field for that. We need this for training. We had an active shooter training at the high school, done, no problem. From everyone involved, the city, the school district, I couldn't ask for more. I think that, I think all of you, the residents, should be very happy and fortunate to live here, because I wish my city was like that. I love where I live, but I definitely know we don't get this support. So thank you very much for everything.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Speaking of our partnership with the Sheriff's Department, would Deputy Alfonso Esqueda please join us? Deputy Esqueda has been an important part of our public safety for the last 15 years. He has been a patrol deputy, a special assignment deputy, and then the leader of the special assignment team. His impact on crime fighting in Paramount has been profound, and he has had much to do with ongoing decline in crime statistics. During this time, he also became a respected member of the community and connected on a human level with our residents. Deputy Esqueda has now been promoted to sergeant, and he will be leaving town for another assignment. We will miss him, and we thank him for making Paramount a better place. And Deputy Esqueda, you will always be part of our city family. You're part of my family as well. So we wish you all the best and congratulations. And know this is always your home, so come back and visit us. So would you like to say a few words? Yes. Okay.
Thank you very much for this honor. I just wanted to say that I've been here 15 years. It was home to me for a long, long time. I will consider it as home. And I've seen many changes in the city. I bought into the idea that Paramount was a great place to be, and it was a great place to work. the city council, all the public safety administrators that I've had the chance to work with. They're a small component. The biggest impact, I think, in the community was the residents themselves. It was because of you and your commitment to live in a better place that made the city of Paramount a really worthy city and a city that I was proud to work in. So thank you very much.
Tonight, we want to introduce a new member of the Paramount Public Safety community, specifically with the County Fire Department. Would Assistant Fire Chief Patrick Arrett please join us? Assistant Chief Arrett now leads the division of LA County Fire that includes Paramount. He manages a team serving 12 cities with 25 fire stations. He has been with the department for 33 years, rising through the ranks. Assistant Chief Arrett is president of the Los Angeles County Association of Chief Officers. He holds a bachelor's degree in political science from UCLA, and he is a California State Fire Marshal Certified Chief Officer. Welcome to Paramount. We look forward to working with you, Chief. Would you like to say a few words?
Wow, what a gracious reception, Ms. Mayor. I appreciate that. I'm 3 weeks into my new job, and I'm just getting a lay of the land. I'm very excited to be here serving communities like Paramount and seeing the presentations given to the officers from law enforcement and us being their partners in the field, and seeing how they're received here in this town really gives me a warm feeling. I have 390 men and women that I get to serve with, and this is a tremendous opportunity for me. I asked Chief Osby for this assignment, and he granted it to me about a month ago. And so I look forward to seeing more of this great city, and I look forward to working with the city council and the city staff. Thank you very much.
At this time, I will take public comments from the audience.
Yes, Madam Mayor, we have 4 speakers cards for item number 14, so we'll call up those individuals when it's time for that item.
Okay.
But in the meantime, we do have other general public comments. The first one is from Ms. Margarita Cioria. She'd like to discuss with the council about a street permit.
Hello, Margarita. Okay. I'm sorry, what street? Denbo, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Diane Martinez and fellow council members. My name is Margarita Ciordia, and I live on the 8100 block of Denbo Street. And I am representing and speaking on behalf of my neighbors and myself. On Tuesday, April 24th, 2018, my family and I attended a public safety meeting to express our concerns regarding the parking issues on our street due to the parking permit on the 13900 block of Orizaba Avenue. Some of the issues that we are facing are as follows, and we discussed this at the public meeting. The people park their cars on our street and leaving them for nearly a week. The cars are only moved when the street sweeper comes by on Tuesdays. And some of the people that park on our street, when there's no parking available on Sundays, will move our trash cans and put them on the sidewalk. And we have missed our trash pickups. They don't put them back where they belong on the curb or anything, and I don't think this is being fair. They block our driveways, they park on the red zones, and this is people that live 3 or 4 blocks away from our neighborhood, because they even open the trunk and take out skateboards to get to their street and everything. And we've just been having a lot of issues, and things have not gotten any better. So I took the job upon myself to survey my neighbors, and we're all in favor. We're asking for the street to be permitted. I know Ms. Adriana told us that everything is on moratorium right now, but when Orizaba was permitted, you guys did not study the whole problem that will come onto our street. And she said that that's why it's a moratorium, because they have to do further studying. Well, we have a suspicion, and I know I shouldn't bring it up because we don't have proof, but a lot of our neighbors believe that this was done because one of the people that asked for the permit there works for the city. So we think that there is an injustice being done, and we need some resolutions to these problems here.
Well, Marguerite, thank you very much for coming before the council. When you have the vehicles parking there for 5 days, are you contacting the sheriff's department,
Yes, we
notifying
are.
them?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Had the same incident in front of my property, and we did contact.
And has a staff member gone out there to see?
I don't recall what the resolution was, but.
Okay, okay. Okay, Adriana, would you be so kind to contact them tomorrow and set up a meeting to discuss this and then report back to the council? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Margarita, thank you.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Next speaker is Mr. Jose De Leon. Mr. De Leon?
Good afternoon to all of you, public
Good
officers.
afternoon.
I just have a quick question. Why do we have too many officers here?
Well, I believe they're here to honor our
But
sergeant
just
who
one.
just got promoted.
I just wonder,
Yeah.
because I know people feel intimidated.
Oh, they shouldn't, because they protect us and they're wonderful.
Yes. Okay. I just want to talk about the air monitors.
Mhm.
Lately, we have in total about 11 monitors in Paramount. We used to have 38. On last month, July, monitor 25, which is located at Lincoln School, was showing on July 4, 4.03. The reason that I mentioned this is at least I want this information to get in records, because we've been asking you to work with this thing. Yes, the levels are down, but they're still fluctuating. If I show you the readings from the last 3 months, you'll be surprised. And imagine, like monitor 25, which is located at Lincoln School, in which I have no idea, probably like 400 kids are going to school, to that school. And you might say, well, they are on vacation. Yes, they are on vacation, but I also see I see like every day, like at least 3 or 4 buses dropping off kids. We got to protect them. And monitor number 2, which is located next to Carlton Forge. On July 1st, it was showing 1.88. On July 13th, 2.50. On July 19th, 0.85. I don't know if some of you have an idea, but the worst Chromium 6 area in the south of California, it's Los Angeles Airport. And the maximum that in which they are allowed to breathe is 0.04. I know here in Paramount, because you didn't move forward with good regulation, you accept to take one unit, excuse me, which is allowed. I just wanted for the people to know this stuff. I know you did a good, nice video in which you were showing how everything is under control. The video looks really, really nice. It looks like you guys pay a professional to do that video. But like I say, the problem is still here. And I know today is gonna be you guys gonna have I think it's a
Okay, thank you,
zonal
Mr.
change,
De Leon.
which I'm in favor of that. That's the last thing you can do.
Great, thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. And Mr. De Leon, you stated that monitor number 25 was spiked on 4th of July. Staff did contact AQMD, and they stated that it may be because of the fireworks that day. But I thank you for coming before the
But I
council.
also want to add that people around those companies, they are already complaining because they are working at 3 a.m.
Okay, thank you.
You have to take in consideration that.
Okay, our next public comment, please.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Our next speaker is Mr. Eric Castillo,
Mr. Castillo?
and he'd like to discuss about the Metro Light Rail Line. Mr. Eric Castillo?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Eric Garcia. I'm here on behalf of myself and my wife. I live in the 1300 block of Facade Avenue. I'm bringing this up because the Metro Light Rail has the West Santa Ana project is around there, and I was not here on the 31st of July to get the update. I was in the state of Texas on a family emergency. When we got back, I received a flyer of one of our neighbors having some, if we had interest in coming here and talking about that light rail, that our properties might be purchased off through Metro, I believe. Imminent.
Domain.
Thank you very much. Yes, just kind of bringing up some points here that I was hoping that might get some, hopefully it won't go through, but at least I know I am trying my best in terms of stopping that. One of them is that is at that property, that is the first home that my wife and I that we purchased. And we were blessed enough to actually live right next to my in-laws. And I mean literally right next to each other. Our plans were for us to start a family and have our in-laws take care of our children when our children do arrive, and God blesses that. And then again, at the other way around, we were going to take care of my in-laws when it was their time to actually that they needed being taken care of. Due to this, now I'm kind of worried because and I'm actually getting some lack of sleep because is this going to go through or not? I'm also worried that I am a school teacher, and if these light rails are going out every 5 minutes, I'm wondering how is this lack of sleep going to affect my teaching position at Linwood High School, and if that's going to guarantee me a teaching position that following school year. All right. So I know I've been having kind of some restless nights due to that. Another point that I kind of want to bring up too is that my father-in-law has plans of retiring within the next 3 years. He's been working at a company, and he's been that he wants to retire. And I'm just wondering if he retires, he's not going to have that income as he has today. And if those properties get purchased, I'm wondering if he is going to actually qualify for a mortgage to actually have, if he's going to get relocated for that. As a matter of fact, if we find something awesome, but now I'm wondering, am I going to find something next to him that way we can still live next to each other and have that blessing? Thank you very much.
And Mr. Castillo, our city staff has been having ongoing conversations with Metro regarding the facade properties. So if you'd be so kind, David, to get his phone number, and we can have staff contact him tomorrow to set up a meeting and share the information that we have.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Madam Mayor, our next speaker is Mr. Ignacio Peña, and he'd also like to discuss the Metro
Okay.
project.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Peña.
Apologies in advance. I might be a little nervous.
No,
my
that's
first
all
time.
right. No, don't be nervous.
My name is Ignacio Peña. I am 30 years old, and for the past 30 years, I have lived and belonged to a great community here in the city of Paramount. I am a product of my environment. That is why I value it and will stand here and voice out my disdain for its destruction. The 105 Metro expansion is considered a good thing on paper, but what paper doesn't show is the faces of all the families affected by this project. I struggle to understand how 2 to 4 miles of Metro can justify taking 46 homes. If our properties are taken away due to eminent domain, what will happen to our neighbors who are retired and on a fixed income? What will happen to our neighbors who are going through tough times and can barely make ends meet? What will happen to our neighbors who worked so hard for years to accomplish the American dream and invested money in their homes to make it into something great they envisioned? The second or third generation in my community might not make $100,000 a year, which is what a real estate study shows is needed to own a home in Los Angeles County. What will happen to our dreams of us continuing to grow our families in our current community? I ask these questions so that you understand where we are coming from, so that you can step into our shoes and feel the sadness and stress of the idea of having to forcefully give up our homes. We will not stand by and let our community be erased from the history of this city. We expect you to look for our best interests. And at the moment, doesn't seem like you are. We expect honesty. We expect complete transparency. We expect your help in preparation. If this project has no way of being defeated and no way of compromising a coexistence between our community and Metro, to all of my neighbors who, then give us a tool and time to prepare. To all of my neighbors who were able to attend this meeting today, I thank you. I ask that you join me and many of us in voicing out our opinion in this project. Thank you.
Mr. Peña, thank you for coming before the City Council. They plan to break ground in 2022, and right now they are having ongoing meetings throughout the county. If you're not able to attend one of the meetings and to share your concerns, you can be so kind to give your phone number to David Johnson, and when the next meeting is, if he's not able to attend, address your concerns, and we'll type them and present them at the Metro meeting.
Mrs. Martinez, I hope
Yes.
that these concerns aren't just paper to you guys. I look at you, our city officials, and hope that you have our best interest, because this is our livelihood, and we don't want to go from here.
I understand.
Thank you.
Mr. Peña,
Thank you.
if I can just make a comment, I totally empathize with you. I actually live in your neighborhood, and so when we had the local meeting, I went door to door on Facade Street, passing out flyers and cards to invite everybody to the last meeting that we've had, and have been in continuing conversations with Metro and Supervisor Hahn's office. I want you to know that the city staff here and members of the city council are constantly advocating in your best interest. We hear everything you're saying. We agree with everything you're saying. So we're fighting as much as we can to see to it that whatever happens in that area, that you get the most out of it. We don't
That is
have
the case, I
complete
thank
control
you.
over it, but I promise you, we are advocates for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our last speaker, Madam Mayor, is Ms. Irene Reynolds, who would also like to discuss the Metro train line. Ms. Reynolds?
Mayor Martinez, council members, and staff. Metro Light Rail is proposing a Metro train from Artesia to downtown LA going through Paramount, Lakewood Boulevard to the 105 freeway, maybe 2 miles. I have attended many meetings and talked to many people. At peak times, the Metro train operates every 5 to 6 minutes. 2 trains would be every 2.5 to 3 minutes passing. Top speed 65, 35 miles average. A huge concern is the train crossing at Downey Avenue, as this is Paramount High School. The train is proposed at ground level, and as stated, every 2.5 to 3 minutes, the gate arms would be down. Traffic could be backed up to Alondra and definitely Rosecrans. Walking students would be impacted and very, very unsafe, as they would be crossing 3 tracks. The petroleum company would still have their transit line. Very, very unsafe for our students, neighbors, friends, and parents. Rosecrans and Paramount Crossing have 2 schools and Paramount Park, which already impact the crossing without outside people coming to use the train. The train now continues to the Union Pacific right-of-way between Arthur Avenues on the east, a multiple-unit street with maybe 160 units, and Facade Street on the west with approximately 40 single homes. Metro has stated the right-of-way is not wide enough for 3 tracks, 2 for Metro and the existing freight line. The freight line is proposed to be moved closer to Arthur Street. And if the train is elevated, these families will feel like they are living in a fishbowl. Facade Street owners are being told Metro needs more land, and they could take some of their backyard and maybe purchase their homes. I do not feel Metro has been out to assess the area for impact, noise, vibrations, congestion, and just plain disruptions for these families. Would you like to put your children to bed each night knowing a train will be by every 7 to 10 minutes? Please, Mayor Martinez, council members, and staff, look at the area as if it was your home and not take their homes or impact a multifamily area. I do not feel safe with a train in our city going 55 to 65 miles an hour. The comment period to Metro Light Rail Line ends August 24th, and I urge everyone here to email or write your concerns. It is our city, and we want the best for everyone. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Mrs. Reynolds.
Mayor Martinez, can I make a quick comment? First of all, I would just like to thank Ms. Reynolds. I know that you've been a tireless advocate and at every meeting and speaking up for the residents and staying on top of all of the publications. So I'd just like to personally thank you for that. And I'd like to make a recommendation that we forward a copy of the public comments to the supervisor's office, because at the public meetings that were held here in Paramount regarding the situation, they did not allow public comments. It was simply a report from Metro, and I think they need to hear directly from these people.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Okay, at this time, consent calendar, please.
Move it.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Gian,
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffmeyer,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hanson.
Yes, with the exception of the study session that I was absent at, so I need to abstain on that.
Mayor Martinez.
Yes. Item 12, appointment of Parks and Recreation Commissioner. As mayor, I appoint Alex Garcia to the Parks and Recreation Commission to fill a vacant position for a term expiring April 2019. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Gian,
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffmeyer,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hanson.
Yes,
Mayor Martinez.
Yes. Item 13, finance agreement for auditing and professional services. May I have a staff report, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council. And this next item is a request for your approval on agreement for auditing services. This is for 2 things. It's our annual required audit and our voluntary audit. The annual audit is something that's required by all government agencies, and we've always received very high remarks for this audit. Now, the voluntary audit is something that we started last year, as you know, and it's something that I feel is very important. Under this type of voluntary audit, we are asking our auditor to analyze some of our basic financial functions to help us eliminate any potential for fraud or embezzlement as we've seen occur in other cities. It's a preventative measure and just another step we put in place to protect the public's money and maintain the public's trust. So with that, I'll turn it over to our Finance Director, Karina Lamb, who will handle the item. Karina?
Thanks, Don. Madam Mayor and members of the council, as John mentioned, this is an item related to a contract with Valvoline Tri-Day. As you know, the city is required by law and by governmental standards to issue a comprehensive annual financial report that has been audited by an outside independent auditing firm. The independent auditors play an important role in testing and evaluating the city's internal controls and the overall financial management for strengths and weaknesses. As our financial reporting requirements continue to evolve, the auditors provide guidance for us as well and serve us as a resource. Valvoline Tri-Day Company has been our independent auditing firm in the past decade. Within this company, we have worked with 4 different auditing teams over the years to audit our financials. Valvoline Tri-Day also has a consulting arm that is independent of the auditing teams, and they assist us with the constant evolving financial reporting requirements. The cost of providing these services is approximately $46,000. Now, even though we have been getting clean audits for over 3 decades, also receiving national recognition for achievement of excellence in financial reporting, as an added measure, like John mentioned, we, since last year, we voluntarily requested Valvoline Tri-Day to perform an additional audit known as an agree-upon procedures to further examine our policies and procedures and internal controls. We believe that this added procedure is very valuable as this is different from our annual financial audits, and the auditors also dig deeper in a very specific area of our operations. Valvoline Tri-Day currently has over 100 city clients. About 30% of their clients also engage them to do agree-upon procedures. Some do it because they have an area of concerns. Now, for us, we're voluntarily doing it. We do it to add level of assurance in our internal controls. Just to give you an example, last year's focus was wire transactions, and 100% of transactions were tested. The cost of this service is about $5,000. As you can see, this is well worth it to continue protecting the integrity of our operations. We're currently in the middle of a preliminary financial audit and also agree-upon procedure audits. We'll be sure to present the results to you when we report the financial statements in December. Under the city's purchasing policy, professional services exceed $40,000 require council's approval. Based on a variety of work performed by Valvoline Tri-Day, the cost for their services will be exceeding this threshold. Therefore, we're asking for your authorization tonight. Funding for Valvoline Tri-Day services is included as part of our city budget. With that, we're recommending council approval to retain Valvoline Tri-Day Company for auditing and professional services. This wraps up my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Karina?
I move the item.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Gian?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffmeyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Lemmons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hanson?
Yes.
Mayor Martinez?
Yes. Item 14, public hearing ordinance number 1106, ZOTA number 8, introduction. May I have a staff report, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council. This next item is a culmination of about 18 months' worth of work. In December of 2016, you may recall, the City Council formed a subcommittee on air quality to determine what actually can be done with our zoning code to provide better protection of the community from harmful air emissions. What followed after that were several meetings where the public could comment and provide input on what the city could do to help in this area. Meetings were also held with environmental consultants and industry representatives to get input on proposed zoning modifications. Then in December of 2017, we presented the City Council a framework for the new zoning amendments. The council then directed us to go back and work with the Planning Commission to further develop and refine these code amendments. And that was done over the last 4 to 5 months. So tonight, we're presenting you with what is likely the most substantial modification to the Paramount zoning code. These amendments introduce new rules that are going to affect the industrial zone and the uses and practices that are going to be allowed in this part of town. But before we go into the nuts and bolts of the ordinance, we'll also provide with you a brief summary about the city's zoning history and how we got to where we are today, because that's a very important point. So with that, I'll turn it over to our Assistant City Manager, Kevin Chun, who will handle the item. Kevin?
All right, thank you, John. Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. First, I want to thank you all for your patience regarding this item. It's been a long process that began back in October of 2016, and at this time, we're pleased to present this item to you for your consideration. So the request before you tonight is a zoning ordinance text amendment, or ZOTA, to revise and update manufacturing regulations in the city's zoning ordinance. This ZOTA will affect the city's manufacturing zones, also known as the Central Industrial District, and specifically the M1 light manufacturing, the M2 heavy manufacturing, and the PDPS plan development with performance standard zones. For background, as you'll recall, the South Coast Air Quality Management District, or AQMD, started an investigation in Paramount in 2013 related to emissions with Carlton Forge Works. In October 2016, due to their presence in Paramount and their investigation regarding Carlton, AQMD separately found high levels of hexavalent chromium elsewhere in the Central Industrial District. As a result, AQMD then put into effect a more comprehensive investigation and air monitoring program throughout the community. Through their efforts, AQMD identified 2 companies as the primary source of the hexavalent chromium emissions, and those were Aerocraft Heat Treating and Anaplex. As a result of AQMD's distressing findings, the City Council took immediate action to form an air quality subcommittee to address this issue. The subcommittee met monthly between December 2016 and October 2017 in meetings advertised and open to the public. The subcommittee's goal was to develop recommendations for revising manufacturing-related portions of the zoning ordinance to help improve air quality in Paramount. These recommendations were sent by the City Council to the Planning Commission for vetting purposes and are now before you again tonight for your review. The Planning Commission conducted several meetings to discuss the subcommittee's recommendations. As with the subcommittee's process, the Planning Commission received and considered input from interested residents and members of the business community. Staff then took this input from the community and the Planning Commission and drafted ZOTA number 8, which represents profound changes and an all-new direction for the city's manufacturing zones. In addition to the subcommittee and Planning Commission's efforts, you'll also recall the moratorium that you established to prevent new metal companies from establishing in Paramount and to stop expansion of operations by existing metal companies. The intent of the moratorium was to allow the city time to develop measures to ultimately improve air quality without additional impacts resulting from new or existing businesses. This moratorium was initially put into effect in December 2016 and will extend through November of this year. And just for some background on the city's zoning, prior to the city's incorporation, the County of Los Angeles established Paramount's first zoning map in 1949. The City of Paramount then incorporated as a municipal government entity in 1957 and adopted its own zoning map in 1962, which was largely similar to county zoning, with the city divided into 3 major zones: manufacturing, commercial, and residential. And as I noted in my staff report, the county allowed multiple homes to be built within the manufacturing zone. However, the city has not permitted any further homes to be built in this area since 1963, as the zoning isn't compatible. These 3 zoning maps on this slide are from 1949, when Paramount was unincorporated county land, the city's initial zoning map from 1962, and the current zoning map that's in place today. The maps are from different eras in Paramount's history, but all 3 show the Central Industrial District distinctly in the middle of the city. The city zoning ordinance from 1962 asserts the role of the Air District in regulating air quality as we know is the role of the AQMD today. However, the city has the ability to improve air quality indirectly through its zoning authority. And that's what the zoning request, or this ZOTA request, is intended to do tonight, to exercise the city's zoning authority to bring about changes in Paramount's manufacturing zones to improve local air quality. So the following are the key components of this ZOTA. First, reclassifying uses allowable in the manufacturing zones, new standards that would apply to metal manufacturers and general development in these zones, administrative actions in order to establish city regulations over specific metal businesses, and new definitions of various uses. And I'll be going over all of these in greater detail over the next several slides. First, regarding use reclassifications, because the city's zoning ordinance has not had a major update since 1985, staff conducted a comprehensive review of uses allowable by right, uses requiring a conditional use permit, and those prohibited uses. From this review, several uses in the M2 zone were deemed to be no longer compatible in Paramount and therefore are recommended to be prohibited. These are uses that have the greatest potential for impact in the community and the environment, such as metal forging, chrome plating, acid manufacturing, and oil refining. Changing many of these uses that are currently allowed to prohibited is intended to stop the further influx of these types of businesses without affecting existing businesses. As an example, if a widget-making company was changed from an allowable use to a prohibited use, no further widget makers would be approved, but those existing widget makers would be allowed to continue operating. So, existing businesses would be allowed to continue operating as legal non-conforming uses. These existing businesses would also be allowed to expand, however, under the strict scrutiny of a city conditional use permit and environmental review process. In addition, other uses that were allowable by right, meaning they were approved administratively, would be reclassified to require a conditional use permit. These uses would have to be reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission in a public hearing process. This change was proposed as some of the uses listed on this slide involve the use of chemical products that could be impactful to the community. The ZOTA also recommends new standards for development in the manufacturing zones. Many of these recommendations came directly from residents who demanded that manufacturing companies be more transparent about their operations as a matter of public awareness. Such standards include simply requiring signage on buildings to identify the names of companies. While most businesses install such signs, this isn't a current requirement by the city, and it was a good common sense idea from our residents. Another standard would be for companies to provide an annual tour or presentation to the public to share what the company does or manufactures. This was intended to allow business and community engagement to help build understanding and hopefully trust. The city would also install miniature billboards in front of businesses to announce details of upcoming construction projects. This was intended to provide information to the public and, again, for public awareness. And another standard would be for companies to comply with AQMD housekeeping and best management practices. Examples of this would be daily dust vacuuming and pressure washing of buildings that companies are now doing, and we've reported to you in the past. The recommendations also include standards that would apply only to the 17 metal companies that have been identified as requiring an AQMD permit for metal-related emissions. Standards include use of best available control technology or lowest achievable emission rate as may be required by the AQMD for new or replacement manufacturing or filtration equipment, the elimination of outdoor ancillary manufacturing work in the M2 zone for new uses or expansion projects, restrictions that may be applied depending on hours of operation For example, no late-night deliveries for companies near neighborhoods, and annual inspections by city staff and regulatory agencies. New development standards are also proposed to help reduce the bulk and scale of new buildings, including 5-foot side setbacks, 5-foot rear setbacks for new buildings on lots that are over half an acre in size, building height reduction from 85 feet to 55 feet, maximum floor area reduction from 4:1 to 2.5:1, and the establishment of a development fee following the completion of a nexus study that staff will complete and bring back to the council at a future time. In addition, the recommendations would improve the public noticing process. The recommendations would go beyond what is now legally required. For construction projects in the manufacturing zone, property owners, residents, and businesses would be notified. Also, currently, public notices are sent to property owners within 300 feet of a project. And with the new requirements or the new recommendations, both property owners and tenants would be notified within 500 feet. Another key recommendation of the ZODA is the administrative action provision. The administrative action is intended to allow the city to apply regulations to the 17 metal companies I previously mentioned. The administrative action would function similarly to a conditional use permit, where the city applies specific conditions for companies to abide by, but without having to go through the discretionary planning commission process. In other words, the administrative action would be approved for metal companies administratively by city staff. Through this process, staff will work with these companies to gain a better understanding of their operations and then apply the appropriate conditions in an administrative action approval process to help prevent impacts to the community. These 17 companies will have 1 year from the City Council's adoption of this ZODA to apply for an administrative action. Also, similar to a conditional use permit, the city may modify, suspend, or revoke an administrative action as may be necessary, working in conjunction with the primary regulatory agency depending on the violations. So, for example, if a widget-making company operating under an administrative action approved by the city violated an AQMD air quality regulation, the city would work with the AQMD to ensure that the appropriate air quality enforcement actions were taken against this company. If the company continued to willfully violate air quality regulations, the city would continue to work in partnership with the AQMD to determine if and when it would be appropriate to revoke the company's administrative action approval. And as a parenthetical, please note that the use of the revocation process is extremely rare and is considered a last resort option. But in this case, if the city chose to revoke the administrative action, the company would no longer be allowed to legally operate in Paramount. At that time, the city would monitor the company's compliance and/or work through the courts to gain compliance. And please note that if court action becomes necessary, ultimate compliance by the company may be a long and complicated process. Finally, the ZODA recommendations include new definitions of uses. As the current zoning ordinance does not include these definitions, this will help to better explain the manufacturing process for each use. In addition, the definition section will also include definitions not directly related to the subject of this presentation, but are included here because of issues that have or will be coming before the Planning Commission or the City Council and other recently approved City Council actions. These definitions include one on banks and personal loan companies, and this is related to an item that the City Council will hear in September. Also included is a definition of an emergency shelter overlay zone. As you'll recall, the City Council approved the city's emergency shelter overlay zone last month, and therefore this is included as a newly improved use in the M1 zone. Many of the ZOTA recommendations before you tonight were based on the public's input received and discussed by the Planning Commission, such as allowing metal companies to expand with a conditional use permit, changing uses like boat building, carpet cleaning plants, and textile manufacturing from allowed by right to requiring a conditional use permit due to the chemical processes involved with each use. Allowing warehouse and distribution centers with a conditional use permit, requiring health risk assessments for larger scale projects that require an environmental impact report or an EIR, and limiting vibrations from uses such as punch presses. As the public's involvement was crucial to the development of the ZOTA, staff did extensive advertising for Planning Commission and all other public meetings. For each of these meetings, staff sent out over 700 notices to properties in the manufacturing zones. Our notices were published in local newspapers. Notices were published on the city's website and on our social media platforms. And email notices were sent to interested members of the public who participated in previous meetings. An environmental review of this ZOTA was also prepared by the city's environmental consultant, and a negative declaration is recommended for adoption. So, in terms of next steps, if approved tonight, the ZOTA's second reading would be on September 4th, and then following that, the ZOTA would become effective in October. At that time, the current moratorium on metal companies can be terminated at the City Council meeting on October 2nd. And also at that time, the 17 metal-related businesses will be notified of their requirement to apply for an administrative action. So in summary, the recommendations before you tonight is the culmination of work and public meetings over the last 22 months. It's been a long journey, but we believe the ZOTA will make substantive and lasting improvements to Paramount's air quality. Lastly, I want to remind you that the zoning ordinance is what we continue to call a living and breathing document that can always be modified. So this is definitely not the last time or opportunity to make changes to our manufacturing regulations. If we find that certain provisions in our zoning ordinance aren't working as we expected, we can always come back and amend the zoning ordinance in the future. So with that, staff asks for your approval, and John Carver and I, as well as our environmental consultant, Mark Blodgett, are here to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to open it up to public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor?
Madam Mayor, I do have 4 speakers cards. Would you like for me to call those up first, or?
Or do you know
Some of them indicate that they are, actually, none of them really indicate whether they're in
in
favor
favor
or
or in
opposed.
opposition?
So what would
Okay,
you like to do?
Go ahead and call them up, and then we'll.
Call them at first?
Yes,
Okay,
I'll-
you got it. Okay, our first speaker's card is Mr. Dylan Holbrook, and he's representing SC Fuels.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you this evening. My name is Dylan B. Holbrook. I work for SC Fuels. We are located at 6825 Rosecrans Boulevard here in Paramount. We operate a facility that employs approximately 200 employees, and we have an administrative office, a shop for some maintenance, and an area for vehicle parking. I've appeared in some of the previous planning meetings to discuss our concerns. I applaud the overall intent of these changes. I've met and talked with some of your residents before and after meetings, and they have shared with me their concerns. I feel for them. I understand their concerns. I think that there are some things that do need to be changed here. One of the concerns that we have is that there is some particular language that prohibits our ability to utilize property that we secured and purchased some years ago. We've put a great deal of money into it to develop it. It's a nice facility. I will state that it is fully compliant with all South Coast Air Quality Management District requirements, State Water Resource Control Board requirements, Cal EPA, Department of Toxic Substance Control requirements, Department of Transportation, and California Highway Patrols. We maintain a fully compliant facility with all regulations, including our facility and our vehicles. We spend a great deal of time and money and effort doing this. As we want to proceed with using our property under the current zoning, if we wanted to put a warehouse in there today, we could do so, but under some of the changes that are being proposed, if we wanted to put a warehouse in to distribute non-hazardous petroleum product, non-hazardous, it would be prohibited because of some of the language that's found in on page 70, section 44.83.1, 24, by adding simply the term excluding non-hazardous petroleum products. I could use that property, or my company could use that product for a distribution warehouse for oil that you put in a car. It's non-hazardous. Also, in the definition section on page 11, section 2.44.1, by adding simply again excluding non-hazardous petroleum products, I would be able to build and house a warehouse there that poses no public concerns, is not involved in any of the issues that are posed to this community right now when it comes to air quality. We do not participate or contribute to any of those issues that are being monitored by South Coast right now. So we just want to be able to continue being able to enjoy the use of the property that we've paid for and developed, and we want to continue to serve this community and surrounding communities with a service that I think is pretty important. We put oil in your cars right now, so that's what we do. We also put fuel in tanks to keep cars moving. So I would request those two minor changes be made. I think it's important that we try not to do punitive damage to businesses that do not contribute to the current issues that plague this city. There are some serious issues, but the businesses that are not contributing to it shouldn't be caught up in the vortex. Thank
Okay,
you for
Mr.
your
Holbrook,
time.
thank you.
I have a question for the speaker. This is one of the issues when I met with staff that we discussed. And my question was this, and I don't know if you can answer it. I was told by staff they would do some further research. Was when I looked at SC Fuels' website, those were all products that you were currently involved with, and they said one of the issues came under no expansion of already existing services and products that are going on there. So I know it's not manufacturing. That's what I was told, that it was about storage. And when I look at your website, those are all products that you were currently involved with. So our disagreement was whether or not that was really an expansion, because those are already the products that you have, and that they were not AQMD regulated. I asked, did they have any emission issues, pollution issues, and it was a storage issue. But to me, my understanding was that it was an expansion. And my question to you would be, is that not something that SC Fuels already does? And like you said, you just hadn't built the facility at that location yet to house those materials? Or is that not a primary function and it would be an expansion?
Your understanding is
for SC
correct,
Fuels?
Councilman Lemons. Councilmember Lemons, that's correct understanding. That is product that we currently sell or provide to the public, distribute. And if we were to build a warehouse, we would be doing nothing different than we do in other locations throughout Southern California and Northern California today.
And so I would go to the fact then too, because when I had my meeting with the planning department over that, then I was assured, well, this is a living, breathing ordinance, and if we investigate and find that to be cause, there would be certainly reason for you to appeal that particular part of the issue to the Planning Commission. Because to me, unless planning wants to correct me, that came down to the real issue, was whether or not was it an expansion of their business. And I said, not from what I'm reading from the website, because had it been that you were going to start manufacturing a product or that it had pollution issues, it wouldn't much have mattered to me. But we dealt with something like this with vinegar in years past, where it was just a storage issue. And then when looking at your website, that was a product that you already manufactured somewhere else. And so when you said storage, I said, that's probably why they bought that huge property that, 50% of it looks unused to me at this point in time. So is there anything you want to add to that, Kevin? Do I have an understanding of that? I know we met for a significantly long time, and there was a lot of issues discussed.
Well, I think how I would answer that is by saying that if indeed what SC Fuels is looking to do constitutes a new use that wouldn't be prohibited with this new zoning ordinance, then we wouldn't recommend its approval. But, we haven't fully looked at we haven't received an application from SE Fuels, but, we would certainly be willing to look at it and see what this new use was. And at that point, we could determine whether or not it was allowable or not. At this point, we
whether or
just
not
haven't,
it was
we don't have
part
enough information.
of what the company's original intent is and not a new arm to their company. So I just wanted to throw that in, that I looked at that very closely. That was of concern to me for that reason, because of what I saw on your website and the fact that it wasn't, a toxic issue you were dealing with. So it wasn't something that we ignored. And as, Kevin has said, when you get to the point where you want to submit documentation on that, they can certainly take those items into consideration.
Thank you, and our intent is to submit very soon in the near future, so thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holbrook.
Madam Mayor, next speaker is Mr. Paul Dennis of Weber Metals.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the City Council, and city staff. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I am Paul Dennis. I work at Weber, and we support the zoning ordinance, ZOTA number 8. I want to commend you as City Council members and city staff for your leadership and guidance. We have all faced some challenges. You did not jump to conclusions, you gathered facts. You did not label and stereotype, you did research. You did not make reactionary decisions, you developed processes. You did not hide. You communicated the facts, the research, the processes in an open and transparent forum. For that leadership and guidance, I commend you. We manufacture structural and rotating parts for the airplane and helicopter markets. We make parts that protect our servicemen and women who defend our country and our freedom. We make parts that allow us to go fly on vacation and visit family and friends. We are proud of what we make right here in the city of Paramount. We want our community to be proud of what we make right here in the city of Paramount. Somebody in this room a while back stated, when we have a problem, we should talk. We appreciate that we have been able to talk. We opened our doors to the Subcommittee on Air Quality. We have met with the city and with the residents. We have opened our door to the city and the Air District regulators. We have communicated information regarding activities and events at the facility. We have provided comments and feedback on proposed zoning ordinances. We view ourselves as a valued member of the community. We employ many Paramount residents and those from neighboring communities. We sponsor college scholarships. We plant trees on Arbor Day. We provide paid summer internships to Paramount High School students. We serve on the Paramount High School Career Technical Education Advisory Board. We install smoke detectors with the Red Cross. We sponsor the Women in Business Forum, including 4 Paramount Unified School District Girls Empowerment Program. We serve on the board of directors of the Chamber of Commerce. We serve meals to seniors at the Thanksgiving dinner. We serve on the oversight committees for bond measures that improve the schools. We participate in Project Lead the Way engineering presentations for high school graduation. We sponsor sports at Paramount High School. We moderate and facilitate at the annual student forum. We're a member of the community, and we thank you, and we support the zoning ordinance, ZOTA number 8.
Thank you, Mr. Dennis. Thank you.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Our next speaker is Mr. Victor De La Cruz. And he's on here on behalf of Opportune.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Honorable Vice Mayor, and Honorable Council. My name is Victor De La Cruz from Manat, Phelps & Phillips. I'm legal counsel to Opportune. Opportune is a community development financial institution loan fund. kind of a long phrase, but essentially, we are the company that was referenced in connection with your staff report that has an appeal that's coming before you in September. And after we reviewed the ordinance that is coming before you today, we realized that the appeal is pretty much going to be mooted out because of the new language that's going to be in the ordinance. And we are here to request your assistance in connection with a small tweak to the ordinance that would allow a company such as Opportune to operate. And I'll provide a little bit more detail about why we believe would be a good use for the city. The amended language that we would propose, and I have copies here that I could pass out, is that in connection with the definition of a bank and savings and loan institution, you add language that also specifically says it allows a loan fund that has been certified as a community development financial institution by the U.S. Department of the Treasury. We completely sympathize with planning staff sentiment to exclude personal loan businesses from an allowed use in the city's own zoning ordinance, and we would only request this language. The reason you would exclude a personal loan business is because of the predatory payday lender industry that exists. Opportune is a company that was founded by a group of students from alumni from Yale and Stanford Business School that were looking for ways to pay it forward and help the Latino community. And they saw a gap that existed with respect to small loans. If you want a small loan of about $2,000 and you have no credit, you don't have a credit card, you can't go to a bank because they're not interested in giving you a $2,000 loan. And your only choice then is a predatory lender, the payday loans, which have exorbitant rates that end up really hurting people and ultimately does not also allow them to build credit, which is an important component of this. And a CDFI avoids that. It makes sure that you don't accidentally get one of these predatory lenders. A CDFI is, according to the Treasury Department, they strive to foster economic opportunity and revitalize neighborhoods, helping families finance their first homes, supporting community residents, starting businesses, and investing in local health centers, schools, and community centers. The requirements for the certification, which Opportune has obtained, they have to have a primary mission of promoting community development, serve principally an investment area or targeted population, maintain accountability to its target market, and also provide development services such as technical assistance or counseling in conjunction with its financing activity. So this is a good use that a lot of cities have actually asked us to come into their towns. We're in the city of Los Angeles, and we're in multiple cities basically ringing Paramount. But because of the old zoning code that is in place, we are not allowed as a permitted use.
Mr. De La Cruz, I spoke with staff regarding this. I had questions.
Yes.
And if this ordinance is passed tonight, your company will be able to continue to come before the council in September. And if the council decides to override the planning commission, then it'll be put in this ordinance. So because we won't be approving it till October. So in September, we'll have a second reading. And so your company does have the opportunity to speak with us to appeal it, and then the council will decide. So just because if we do approve it tonight, doesn't mean that you're out of the ballgame. You'll continue to come before the council in September to educate us on your business.
Okay, but if I could ask one follow-up question. The concern we have is that the first reading is where technical changes can be introduced into an ordinance. The second reading is essentially, just it's generally something that's placed on the consent calendar, and no changes are allowed unless you then subsequently go back for a first reading. So I think our concern is that if the council approves the ordinance tonight and then goes to second reading, we can't make any changes to the ordinance at that point in time unless the city wants to reopen the ordinance and send it back for another first reading.
Mr. Chen?
Also,
Yeah.
Mr. Kavanaugh can
Yeah,
explain
I'll
that as
defer to
well.
City Attorney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Actually, that's not 100% correct, because even with the second reading, this ordinance does not become effective until 30 days after your September meeting. So the ordinance just stays as it is. The appellants will have the full opportunity to appeal to you in September prior to the effective date. If the city so is inclined to override or reverse the decision of the Planning Commission, you can direct the city staff to make an amendment to this ordinance that would reflect that and put that language in, or whatever you would like to do. But it doesn't prejudice the applicant whatsoever should you decide to go forward with tonight. Basically, right now, the Planning Commission has denied their request. So in actuality, they can't do business in the city at all, even though it's our understanding they are. But for purposes of their business, the decision by the Planning Commission has denied it. The appeal basically stays any enforcement pending your consideration of it. So in effect, nothing really has changed until that time comes, and you can always amend the ordinance and direct us to do so, and we would bring that to you in the next meeting.
May I? Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Daryl.
Hey, John, a question. They are in business, doing business now in the city, and they're not supposed to be, right?
Well, it's our understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it was our understanding that the applicant did indicate that they had opened up, they are operating under their current operations in the city now, although they started differently, but I think it evolved into their current operations. Is that correct?
true?
Yeah, I could provide some clarity on that. So, the existing use has a business license and somehow went through its permitting process without any incident whatsoever. And I think that that's probably because of the what we construe as the ambiguity in the definition of the zoning code, which provides for banking for banks and savings and loan institutions. And I think that what happened is that the city staff at that point in time interpreted it to be an allowed use. What's happened recently, so our appeal has nothing to do with that existing use. Rather, it's in connection with a new standalone use that we were seeking permits for to operate. And so when we went in for the second store in the city of Paramount, that's when the issue came up.
Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Lemons?
So I know new information came to us about the explanation of a predatory business and about your government designation. So I would just ask that before the second reading that we have a full staff report regarding that information, and to be clear that if it's the way that I understand it, there's no problem with offering an amendment to the ordinance then at that time. Would that be correct?
Yes, you can, before the second reading.
Right. So at that second meeting, after we have the report, before we adopt it, if we wanted to make an amendment at that time, we could?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
All right,
Delacruz.
thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Moreno?
Yes, our last speaker's card for this item is Ms. Alejandra Velasquez, who is also with Opportune.
Alejandra Velasquez, I'm the Director of Public Affairs for Opportune, and I just wanted to share more information about the company. I know that you already had this discussion with Victor, so I'll make it very quick to really just give you more background and understanding, and also if you have any additional questions before you make a decision, you can reach out to me. But real quick, Opportune is a mission-driven financial company that's actually focused on serving low to moderate income individuals that don't have a FICO score or have very little credit. So we are dealing with a very narrow population who doesn't have access to mainstream financial products. The company lends from $300 to $8,000. This is a subset, a range of loans, as Victor mentioned, that is not served by traditional banks or even credit unions. And credit unions who do maybe offer some of these loans aren't allowed to actually take a risk. So the people that we're working with still can't access this product in mainstream financial services. A lot of these folks are underbanked, so they don't have bank accounts. They're working in the cash economy, so they're not establishing any credit history. And they, when they find themselves in a position where they need credit history, background check, job background checks, renting an apartment, they're stuck. So Opportune is actually an alternative to predatory lenders. We commissioned a report conducted by the Center for Financial Services Innovation, and they found that Oportun is on average a seventh of the cost of payday lenders and a quarter of the cost of other installment lenders, such as online lenders, auto title loans, rent-to-own, and pawn shops. As Victor mentioned, because of our commitment to serve in these communities and offer affordable alternatives and helping these individuals actually establish credit, we have our CDFI designation from the U.S. Treasury Department. In addition, in 2014, the California State Legislature implemented the California Pilot Program for increased access to responsible small dollar loans. So the DBO found that there was a problem, there was a gap in services, that people who were underbanked, didn't have access to to mainstream financial products, weren't being served by banks or credit unions, and they were most likely relying on predatory lenders. So they created this program to encourage companies like ours to actually expand in California to be able to serve these populations. To this day, we are the largest responsible lender under the California Pilot Program. We currently operate more than 280 physical locations across 8 states in the US. We've served more than 1 million people, dispersed more than $5 billion in loans, and have helped customers save more than $1 billion in fees had they gone to a payday lender or another type of alternative lender, and have helped more than 600,000 people who didn't have a FICO score establish credit. Here in LA County, we have 62 locations, and I have a list for you that I can share.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alejandra.
I would like to see that list, please.
Alejandra, maybe,
You can pass them out.
Alejandra, you stated you had literature for
Oh, yes,
council.
I apologize.
David, will you please get it? Thank you. Okay, is that it?
That was our last speaker card, so if you want to revert back to the normal public
Okay,
hearing procedure.
May I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Gian,
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffmeyer,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemmons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hanson,
Yes.
Mayor Martinez.
Yes.
I move we adopt the negative declaration relative to ordinance number 1106.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Gian,
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffmeyer,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemmons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hanson,
Yes.
Mayor Martinez.
Yes.
I move we read by title only, waive further reading, and introduce ordinance number 1106 and place it on the next regular agenda for adoption.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Gian,
If we could just take council suggestions into this before we take a vote, I just would like to make a recommendation that we request from the city staff to provide council with the status report monthly of the 17 companies. And I know you had discussed this with one of the commissioners, with the 17 companies who are required to apply for an administrative action within 1 year from when ZOTA becomes new law. Status report meaning when companies have applied, which ones have not applied, which applications have been approved or denied, and why, and what actions the city is taking to ensure that the 17 companies are responsible for filing administrative action within the year. And then just to get a request from the city staff to provide an update as to when and what type of vibration measurement tool will be purchased and put into compliance with ZOTA, and when will the code enforcement be trained on how to use the tool and understand how to interpret the readings. And then last, the study to determine impact fees. Will there be a city council presentation on who will be conducting the study? What will the methodology be, and what is the time frame of the study? If we could get some timelines and then report back to the council.
Any
There
other
just
Mayor,
needs to be
Mayor?
a set time.
I have no objection to a timeline once the application process starts. I think that it would be good to get a report back as to how we're progressing with anybody. As for a lot of the other items that Councilmember Guillen brought up, I don't know that I'm opposed. What I would like to know is what that entails, and do we have the staff, and what the cost is, and the equipment. There are a lot of recommendations there for things that we don't have a lot of information on. So I would have no objection to the first suggestion, and the others I would like to have a report on exactly what that means to us. I think the follow-up is part of what we plan to
Follow-up's
do
very
anyway, so I
important.
have no objection to that.
Well, they have a year
concur
to do
with
this, right?
Lemons.
They have a year before they have to apply for this, right?
Within a year.
Right, but with the monthly status report, we'll know who's applied and who's waited till the last minute, and then those that come up at the last minute to ask for an extension. So with a monthly update, we'll know that who is in good faith applying and who is sticking to the ordinance.
So I think as the 17 metal companies apply, then you educate council on the status of each company. And then the additional information that was requested by Councilmember Lemons, by Councilmember Gillen, I agree with Councilmember Lemons. Educate the council on how much information, detail, time that's going to be for staff's time.
Yep, we'll be happy to do that.
Okay, do I have a second?
I did already.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Gian?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffmeyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hanson?
Yes.
Mayor Martinez?
Yes. Item 15, approval agreement by and between the County of Los Angeles and City of Paramount for Deputy District Attorney Services. May I have a staff report, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council. This last item involves another agreement for services. This one, however, is for services from...
Hold up, John.
Excuse me, you're here to speak regarding,
Well, actually, really, I just had a question or two here that I wasn't going to go on a big, long rant over or anything. Yeah, but this is basically on that, on your item 14 here, the amendment number 8. And I was looking for an idea of what applicability was going to be, on it. Like, for example, in certain applications, existing property uses can probably see change on account of this amendment. Is that correct?
Out of order like that?
okay. Sir, public comments has ended, so if you'd be so kind to give your name and we'll speak with you after our meeting to discuss that.
Hey, I'm sorry.
What is your name? I'm sorry, sir.
But if there's somebody else I can talk to more specifically.
Okay, after our
I can do
meeting, if
that.
you'd wait, I'd be happy to speak with you and have my staff join me. What is your name?
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, what is your name?
Robert Melendez.
Okay, Robert, Mr. Melendez. Thank you, John. Okay, we're
Alrighty, yeah, this last item-
Staff report, please, on the attorney services.
Right, this one is for the Deputy District Attorney. It's a 1-year renewal of an agreement that we've had in place for about 20 years. The services from our Deputy DA and Mayor and Council have been superb and extremely beneficial to our public safety efforts. Our law enforcement partners with the Sheriff's Department have also echoed this sentiment as well. A little bit of a twist with this year's renewal, and that's the cost. The county recently informed us that we would need to cover the entire cost of the deputy DA. Previous years, that was a shared cost with the county. So Adriana Lopez will tell us about the DA program, the agreement, and how we plan to cover the cost of this item. Adriana?
Yes, thank you, John. Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. As John mentioned, today I will be highlighting the service agreement with the County of Los Angeles District Attorney's Office, and I will begin by giving you a background of the agreement. My clicker is not working. I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you. As John mentioned, for about 20 years, since 1999, the City of Paramount has contracted services from the County of Los Angeles District Attorney's Office through their SAGE program, and SAGE stands for Strategies Against Gang Environments. At that time, the Paramount City Council knew that gang activity and gang violence needed to be addressed with new and creative programs. Hence, the SAGE program was brought to the City of Paramount. Through the SAGE program, a dedicated deputy district attorney was assigned to the City of Paramount to assist with abating criminal and gang activity occurring in the city. The goals for the SAGE program have always been and will continue to be to abate existing criminal activity and to deter future criminal behavior from occurring in the city. With the goals of abating and deterring crime in the city, the SAGE DDA meets with sheriff personnel and public safety on a biweekly basis to identify any problematic properties and also to develop an effective way of abating such activity. Once all parties have been met, the SAGE deputy ensures that the courts and the prosecuting attorneys are aware of the city's position regarding certain cases. The SAGE DDA attorney achieves these goals by closely working with the City of Paramount, the Sheriff's Department, and court personnel, as well as the school district through the Project LEAD program. And Project LEAD stands for Legal Enrichment and Decision-Making. Through that program, students are taught lessons developed by the Constitutional Rights Foundation and the District Attorney's Office to educate them on the criminal justice system and also to obtain information and education on how to avoid gangs, drugs, and also just in general peer pressure that juveniles often encounter during their adolescence. The course is designed to keep kids in school and away from crime. As part of the responsibilities of the SAGE DDA, we rely heavily on the assistance to make sure we track any criminal cases involving the City of Paramount. Some of those cases may be tracked as allowed by law. Could be cases where the crime was committed in the City of Paramount, also complicated criminal cases involving known gang members and specific gangs. It also includes cases where nuisance complaints concerning residential and business properties. Our SAGE DDA also follows cases and tracks cases where restitution is owed to the city, and also where criminal cases where she has to report to court to ensure that the City of Paramount's goals to abate criminal activity is achieved. In addition to tracking cases, important cases involving the City of Paramount, our dedicated DDA is also involved in certain programs, one being the diversion program. And this program allows students to complete a program to resolve a truancy citation that was issued to them that otherwise would have gone to the Department of Probation. And one of the programs that we're very proud of is the Texatip program. This is a program that was introduced and officially launched by a current DDA, who's Kelly Tapman. This allows for Paramount High School students to confidentially text concerns or campus safety issues directly to our resource deputy, as well as public safety staff and school administrators. In addition, the DDA attends SARB hearings, and these are hearings that are held on a regular basis during the school year. These hearings allow the DDA to track those students who are chronically truant and attempt to reach them and have them participate in a program geared toward educating students and parents on the importance of education. As John mentioned, we do have a change in the amount for the contract, and in late 2018, the County of Los Angeles notified public staff of an increase in the service agreement for the SAGE program that would take effect for this current fiscal year 2019. The County of Los Angeles reported that they would no longer be able to provide funding for the SAGE program, and the city would be responsible to cover the entire cost of the program, which is slightly under $250,000 for the current fiscal year. In our current fiscal year, we budgeted $132,000 for the SAGE program, but we also realized a savings of $87,000 for this year by not renewing our service contract for the probation officer. The savings of $87,000 would be applied to cover the full cost for the SAGE program. Then at mid-year, we would make an adjustment of approximately $31,000 that would complete the total cost of the SAGE program. As John mentioned, the SAGE program is a valuable part of the city's ongoing efforts to deter crime, but it is also successful in addressing and to prosecute those people who do commit a crime in the City of Paramount. Since the inception of the program, the SAGE DDA has also been an active participant in educating law enforcement as well as city personnel to any new laws that are upcoming and that might impact the way we deal with crime here and our approach to dealing with crime. With that, it is recommended that the City Council approve and authorize the mayor or her designee to enter into an agreement with the County of Los Angeles District Attorney's Office and direct the city manager to make the adjustments to cover the entire cost of the SAGE program. And I will be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Adriana?
We move the item.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Guillen?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffmeyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Lemmons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hanson?
Yes.
Mayor Martinez?
Yes. Okay, are there any comments or committee reports from council members?
I got maybe just one or so.
Mr. Councilmember Hoffmeyer?
We attended one of the first openings of the Press Pizza, and it was a tremendous success. And they couldn't say enough about our staff and how they worked with them to get everything going in place like that. So I think to Kevin and his staff, I think you have to have a big kudos for what you've done, and I'm sure it goes other places in the city also.
Madam Mayor, I just want to say thank you to regarding the new zoning ordinance. I want to thank the residents for all of their input and their passion on this issue. I want to thank the staff for working so hard and bringing us something that everybody could agree on. And I would also like to thank the manufacturing community for their cooperation, and that this didn't have to go to litigation, but you were willing to do what was best for our community at all. So thank you all for all your hard work. You did a great job.
Any other comments?
Yes.
Councilmember
Very
Gillen?
good.
I just want to reiterate what both council members spoke about. And in addition, I also want to thank the community for holding staff and council's feet to the fire to make sure that these ordinances passed. It's been a long journey, but we're getting there. There's a long ways to go. But I'm sure this helps build confidence within your city staff that we are doing the things that need to get done to improve the air quality. I know that's frustrating, but some good news. I'm sorry to see that Mr. DeLeon left, but what I wanted to say with all the high readings, I am on a weekly conversation with the AQMD, and what we're now getting are multi-metal monitors, so they will not just be monitoring for Chrome 6, they're going to be monitoring for additional toxics in the air in addition to chromium 6, so we'll know what's causing a lot of the health issues. So that's good news. Yes, it's frustrating. Yes, it's a long journey, but I think we've all showed that our staff is committed to making improvements. Long overdue, I know, but we're getting it done. So thank you for holding our feet to the fire.
Well, yes, I was also at the Pizza Press, and they were very thankful for our staff, you might say, and very complimentary, and they do serve pretty good pizza, actually. On another note, with the mosquitoes, being I sit on the Greater Los Angeles County Vector Control Board, in our district, we've had our first human case was reported in Northridge. But the mosquitoes through July remain close to the 5-year average, actually. And they had 2 other human cases in other parts of LA County that's not within our own jurisdiction with the Greater Los Angeles County Vector Control Board. So,
Diane, I did forget one. Just real quick, I attended a conference with Senator Lara's office on the status of immigration efforts and the environment as it pertains to the 710 and the pollution that presents to communities like ours, including Paramount. So if anybody has questions about an update on immigration efforts that are being put forward or the 710 as it pertains to pollution, please feel free to either email me and we can set up a meeting. So thank you.
Thank you. Last night I attended our National Night Out dinner where we recognized and we thanked our Neighborhood Watch volunteers. And it was very nice to have in attendance our commander, our captain, our deputy sheriffs. So it was a wonderful dinner. So I thank Adriana for leading us. Thank you. And at this time, I'd like to, staff, you have a report?
No, ma'am.
No, and I didn't forget this time. Okay. At
Time
this,
that you remember, I don't have
I know.
anything.
At this time, I'd like to adjourn this meeting on behalf of Congresswoman Linda Sanchez's father, who passed away last week, Ignacio Sanchez. Okay, let's go on to the successor agency meeting. May I have a roll call of council members, please?
Councilmember Guillen?
Here.
Councilmember Hoffmeyer?
Here.
Councilmember Lemmons?
Here.
Vice Mayor Hanson?
Here.
Mayor Martinez?
Here. Consent calendar?
Motion
Move
to
it.
approve.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Guillen?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffmeyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Lemmons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hanson?
Yes.
Mayor Martinez?
pardon me, yes. I adjourn this meeting to September 4th, 2018.
Ooh.
7:40.
Pretty warm. No, it broke down today. What's that? Absolutely.
I didn't hear a word you